Imagine starting with nothing but a loan from your grandfather and turning it into a business empire worth over $20 billion. Imagine building the largest cement company in Africa, the largest fertilizer plant in the world, and one of the biggest oil refineries on the entire continent, all from a country that people once said had no future. This is not fiction. This is the story of Aliko Dangote, the man who refused to let Africa's limitations become his own. And today, we are going to break down exactly how he did it and what his mindset can teach you about building something that lasts. Aliko Dangote was born on April 10, 1957 in Kano, the ancient commercial capital of northern Nigeria. He came from a wealthy Muslim family with a long tradition of trade. His great-grandfather, Alhassan Dangote, was once the richest man in West Africa. So Dangote had a head start, but not the kind people assume. Being born into a family of traders doesn't give you a business. It gives you a standard to meet, and the pressure of that standard was real. From a young age, Dangote showed that he was cut from a different cloth. As a child, he would buy sweets at wholesale price and sell them to his classmates for a profit. Not because he needed the money, but because the mechanics of trade fascinated him. The buy low, sell high, reinvest, repeat cycle was already in his blood before he could fully articulate what business meant. He studied at Nasarawa Primary School, then went on to the University of Al-Azhar in Cairo, Egypt, where he studied business. But the classroom, for Dangote, was always secondary to the real world. At 21 years old, he borrowed 500,000 naira from his uncle, Abdulkadir Dangote, and used it to start a small trading business in Lagos, importing and selling basic commodities: sugar, cement, flour. That loan was the seed. What Dangote did with it would take the entire continent by surprise. In 1981, Dangote formally registered the Dangote Group. It started simply importing and distributing basic goods that Nigeria desperately needed: sugar, flour, cement, salt, rice. These were not glamorous products, but Dangote understood something that most ambitious people overlook. You don't need to sell something exciting. You need to sell something necessary. He built relationships with suppliers, negotiated aggressively, and reinvested every profit back into the business. No mansions, no private jets. Not yet. First scale, through the 1980s and 90s, as Nigeria battled military rule, economic instability, and infrastructure collapse, Dangote kept his head down and kept building. While others complained about the environment, he asked a different question: what does this broken system still need? And then he went and supplied it. By the late 1990s, the Dangote Group had become one of Nigeria's most powerful trading companies. But Dangote wasn't satisfied with importing. He saw the next move clearly. Nigeria was buying products it could make itself. And the man who made those products locally at lower cost, at higher volume, would own the market. So he pivoted from trading to manufacturing. In 1997, he acquired a cement blending operation. By 2010, the Dangote Cement Company had become the largest cement producer in sub-Saharan Africa, with plants operating across Nigeria, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Zambia, South Africa, and more. Think about what that means. Every road built in Nigeria, every school, every bridge, every apartment block. The cement that holds them together has Dangote's name on it. But let's not tell a fairy tale. Dangote's journey was not a straight line up. Building in Nigeria means building against the odds: inconsistent power supply, crumbling infrastructure, regulatory challenges, foreign exchange crises, and a business environment where corruption threatened to swallow every deal. In the early 2000s, Dangote faced accusations of benefiting from government connections. Critics argued that his growth was tied too closely to political favor rather than pure market competition. It was a controversy he never fully escaped. But what cannot be disputed is the output. Factories that employ tens of thousands of Nigerians. Products that are cheaper because they are made locally. A business model that proved African manufacturing could compete on a global scale. And then there is the refinery. The Dangote refinery, located in Lekki, Lagos, is his most audacious project yet. At a cost of over $19 billion, it is one of the single largest private investments in African history. A refinery with the capacity to process 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day, enough to meet Nigeria's entire fuel needs and export across the continent. For years, Nigeria, the largest oil producer in Africa, was importing its own refined fuel. Dangote decided to end that embarrassment. The refinery, which began operations in 2024, represents something bigger than business. It is a statement about what Africa can build when its people decide to stop outsourcing their future. So, what can you and I actually learn from Aliko Dangote? First, sell what people need, not just what excites you. Dangote built his empire on cement, sugar, and flour, boring, essential, and stoppable. Before you chase the flashy idea, ask yourself, is there a version of this business that sells something people cannot live without? Second, reinvest before you reward yourself. For decades, Dangote lived well below what his wealth could afford in. The money went back into the business. The compounding effect of that discipline is what produced the billions, not one brilliant deal, but thousands of reinvested choices. Third, build local. Think continental. Dangote didn't just build for Nigeria. From the beginning, his eye was on the entire African market. Your next move doesn't have to stay in your city or your country. Africa has 1.4 billion people. The market is enormous. Build for it. Fourth, stay when others leave. During Nigeria's darkest economic seasons, Dangote stayed and invested. The people who win in difficult environments are the ones who see the opportunity inside the chaos that everyone else is running from. And fifth, think in decades, not quarters. The Dangote refinery took over a decade to build. He was mocked, doubted, and questioned at every stage. He kept building. The people who laughed are now watching trucks roll out of the largest refinery on. Aliko Dangote did not build his empire because Nigeria was easy. He built it because he refused to use Nigeria's difficulties as an excuse. He is proof that the richest man in Africa was not found in Europe or America. He was found in Kano, raised on the same continent that people told us had no future. And if he could build $20 billion from a 500,000 naira loan, what is your excuse? If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs it today. Subscribe to RiseAfrika for more stories of African greatness every week. And if you want to go deeper, check the link in the description. Our ebook, The African Rise Mindset, goes further into the principles behind stories like this one. Africa is rising, and so are you. Until next time, this is RiseAfrika, stories that move the world.